is about learning to dance in the rain. I love that quote so much. You know, I mean, think about it. When we were kids, right? We used to look forward to the rain falling, and we'll go around dancing in the rain. What typically parents don't like it because they say you're going to get a cold, you're going to do this, you know. But I think it teaches us something about life. As you get older, we begin to become more risk averse, you know, and it's like, I have to be careful of all the risks, what's the danger that's going to happen and all the rest. And sometimes we leave our best dreams behind and don't live them, you know. Whereas with kids, they're adventurous. They want to explore. They want to enjoy it all. And I think that we need to go back to that place where we want to enjoy it all again, you know, and say, let's not wait for the storm to pass. Let's jump in the rain and enjoy it. Let's enjoy it. Yeah.
I couldn't have agreed more. Now, I have a packed show for you guys today.
We do.
We're going to start off talking about child abuse.
Yeah.
You know, in the past week or so, we've heard cases in Kumasi, right here in Accra, of fathers who are supposed to be protecting their children, actually abusing their kids. Now, a couple of days ago, I interviewed a child whose ear was cut off by his dad for allegedly stealing 250 cedis, 10 years old. You know, and most of the time when you hear these stories, the family never gets justice.
Wait, hold on. He used what? A razor blade to cut off the ear?
And attempted to chop off all his fingers.
Good Lord.
For allegedly stealing his 250 cedis. Now, as barbaric as that sounds, it's not... It's not a case on its own. It happens all over the country. And usually, the families will say, oh, let's handle it at home. Let's not go to court. And some people will be telling the mother, oh, you know, who's going to take care of your kids if he's arrested? Who's going to feed you? Because usually, these same perpetrators are the breadwinners of the family. So I spoke to the boy about how he felt about getting justice for what his dad did to him. And I was expecting him to say, I'm so happy because what this man did to me is so traumatic. I don't have to worry about him ever hurting me again for at least 2 years. And he said something that shocked me. He was like, I don't want my dad to go away. He even thought it was 2 months. I don't want my dad to go away for 2 months because who's going to feed me?
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. My goodness. My goodness. Well, I think we should take a look at the interview you had, and then we'll come back and continue the conversation. Let's take a look.
Zach, what takes up a them for 2 years now? Not who feel saying?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. 2 months nedos. Okodemia, me no baba buan. I'm scattered and Eddie.
At a time when the president is telling the nation to stay home to be safe, some fathers have taken it upon themselves to brutalize their children. Last week, my colleague Hafiz Tijani brought a story from Kumasi of a 26-year-old father who beat his son to a pulp for peeing on himself and stealing a yam phone at 3 years old. A few days ago in Weija, we heard a story of a 55-year-old man who cut off his son's ear and attempted to chop off the boy's fingers for allegedly stealing his 250 Ghana cedis. What crime have these boys committed to be scarred for life? We're here at the Weija division of Dofsu to speak to the victim's mother on exactly what happened.
Akola ne de o se akola na so ye din ntinu se sika ni ho no mo a wa fa sika nto na se akola no so ba no obehu se ne papa sika hye ha na ono so wa ye den na wa akofa ne papa ne ba oba hye no o hye no o fa sika na o hye no me ye fra me ka che me so wa ye bone na ne papa wa ye den wa hye no ntani de enye hye but the oye de me ka me the oye ya me ti se esi we twa me ba na so ne de me ka che ne se me fa nche no so obi na de be che obi dia me pa de enya da me de be che no e bi se din ya pa so oba wo ba a okita ne bibia de baba asase we su na enche na akwala kitikiti afian so no so oba bo ne bra na wa baba ya asosin ene de papa ne de me fa nche no de odi aya me no why di me wu pa nti nya da me de be che no me o ware me no na saa ntokwa saa adiketewa bi na obo me adiketewa bi na obo me ntokwa saa ese ameti ame woti yare e be say otime ni me kwa na odi meti pimpim blog or pimpim dan ti me wa ha na wi abo bebra na meti me ntimi kura.
Aisha Adamu, who was once married to Osman Mumuni, narrates her ordeal as his wife.
Again, I make kind of me couldn't in Sanse Mason. O Bomason, me hoshi, or Simon Sammy Fim, or Bommy Fima don't piano, every I feel to me, homie, or Hona Miss Beef, my Danny and Tokwa, or Yasam Taman for Bepatai. I feel to me, yes, she may Sammy to me, Peja.
On May 17, 2020, the police received a report from the mother of the victim, Zak Osman, who was abused by her ex-husband, Osman Mumuni, with whom their son stayed with. According to the report, he chopped off part of the victim's right ear with blade and placed his fingers in an open fire after accusing him of stealing 250 Ghana cedis at their home in Obuom, Domiabra. Zak, who went through severe pains, was subsequently sent to the Amanfro Polyclinic, where he was treated and discharged. Many teenagers in Ghana still experience frequent and multiple forms of physical, emotional, verbal abuse and violence. The 2013 UNICEF Child Protection Baseline Research Report indicates that when children were asked about their experiences of physical discipline, over 57% of respondents between the ages of 14 and 17 said they were beaten at home all the time. Assistant Superintendent Rosemary Votia, the coordinator of the Domestic Violence and Victim Support Unit at the Wager Divisional Police Station, has advised parents and guardians to desist from abusing children under the pretext of enforcing discipline.
I will advise parents and guardians that they should exercise patience for the children. This man was saying that the little boy is stubborn, and he acted out of provocation. No matter how your child provokes you, at least know that he or she is a child. Exercise a little patience for him or her. Counsel her, educate her, tell her what he should do, what he should not do, because he's a child. He might not know the consequences of whatever he is doing. So if you are doing that and you think it's getting out of hand, let us know. We can involve social welfare. Social welfare can take them through some form of counseling and then to straighten up the child. That is all I have to say. But then if you go ahead and do it, the law will deal with you.
10-year-old Zak has received justice from his father. As the ASP said, it is a responsibility of the entire community to protect these. So there you have it, the story of a 10-year-old Zak who lives with his dad, allegedly took 250 Ghana cedis. He can't even prove that the child took it. Father takes the child, chops off his ear, threatens to kill him if he screams, and then attempts to chop off all his fingers. And before he's able to do that, the neighbors stepped in to rescue the little boy. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, we hear a story of a father brutalizing his 3-month-old over a yam phone and peeing on himself, which is something that 3-month-olds are supposed to do. You know, is it a case of mental issues? Are these fathers psychotic? Or is it an economic case where they feel like they're the breadwinners, they have to provide for the family so they can do whatever it is they want to the woman and the children? And how are these kids going to judge us one day if we fail to protect them as a society?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we've been joined by Dr. Angela Dramina Abuaje, who is the lawyer and executive director of the ARC Foundation. And she's been involved in a lot of work to do with domestic abuse situations. Good morning, Dr. Angie. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Now, you heard the story, you've seen the story. What jumps out at you first?
Well, there are a number of connections The first one, clearly, is that child abuse is endemic in our country, and it's time we took it seriously as a country. We've talked about this umpteen years, but we still haven't taken it seriously as a country. Secondly is the connection between abuse of the mothers of these children, whether they are wives or, you know, people that they've lived with.
Yeah.
The connection between abuse of women and abuse of the children, unfortunately by fathers. That is not to say that some fathers are not abused or some men are not abused, but research across the world has connected very strongly the likelihood of children being abused when their mother is abused.
Wow.
And we can see the connections in both stories that we've heard over the last week. And then also this thing about, are they mentally ill? If they're mentally ill, nobody should take them to court, because they can't be held responsible for their actions. So when I hear that, I get a little distressed. Many abusers, there's nothing wrong with them. They exercise power over people they think are helpless and can't do anything against them. And they choose to exercise power like that. It's a connection that needs to be made. Very, very few people who do these kinds of things are mentally ill. And you know that because they don't stop at their child. They do it anyway. Yes, exactly. There's a pattern that you can. So I'm really hoping that on media discussions and so on, people won't say, oh, they're, you know, mentally ill. No, until it is established. Let's know that abusers show a certain pattern of behavior. You can almost always profile them. And then by that, you're able to put in the kinds of interventions, preventive and protective interventions in our society. Otherwise, we miss the point.
Dr. Apache, what exactly will cause a father? I get the point about power.
Yes, the things that people will tell you why I did this, they're excuses. So I was provoked, I was angry, I'm poor, I can't take care of them, I'm frustrated, you know, all of those things are excuses. The point is power. Power by one person against somebody that they think is vulnerable. It could be your own child, or it could be your spouse. And every time this kind of abuse is exercised, it's a learned behavior, and you choose to do it. And that's why in many places there are programs to help people to unlearn the behavior and not to let them make excuses for their behavior. So let it not surprise you. I mean, if I put on my pastor's hat, I'll say that yes, the world is sick. You know, everybody has that streak in them. They're only restrained by regulation, or by, if they have God, then they can be restrained because they know I shouldn't do this, okay? Or by societal norms and regulations and so on and so forth. So, well, there go I, but for the grace of God. Yes, you can say that. Especially when you come into, you know, a place of power, if you don't restrain yourself by whatever means, the tendency to use the power to abuse somebody who is more vulnerable than you is very, very strong in all of us.
So let's look at the issue of safety nets and systems that we have as a country.
Yes.
Child has been abused. Justice seems to have been served.
Right.
Is that the end of it? What's next?
No, in fact, if you look at Ghana's laws and policies on handling violence, whether it's violence against women, sexual and gender-based violence, or child abuse, it's very comprehensive. If you take our laws and policies together, you have a real system of work that should be working, irrespective of whether we have money or not. Money is good, and money is important for these issues. But money isn't all that there is to it. Unfortunately, Ghana is notorious for not enforcing laws. We can't run away from that. And the more the laws are about the little people, the more we think, oh, this is a social thing, you know, it will go away after a while. Say, you know, that's how we were raised. You know what your daddy did to me, please go back. Those kinds of things. Okay, so there's a tendency to look at those laws and policies as not as important as our economic and macroeconomic stuff and all of that. And that's really hurting us because guess what? The people who are falling through the cracks are the human resource of this country.
Yeah.
So in our laws, if you take the Children's Act, you read it together with the Domestic Violence Act, and you take all the standard operative procedures, the SOPs we have, and you take policies on children, and we have about 10 beautiful documents, maybe I can count, of all kinds.
Yeah.
And you take all these together plus our criminal code, our Criminal Offences Act, and so on, you have a system of work. In that system, you have the justice system, which is only a little part. I am not a fan of the justice system, even though I'm a lawyer, and I know that we need to really work at it well. But when I say I'm not a fan of it, it's not because it's not needed. It is because it must be complemented by a social system, a social services system that enables victims to not just get the legal justice, but the restorative justice. You know, the kind of thing that enables them to become whole again. And that's why the Department of Social Welfare has a role. In fact, the child says, who is going to take care of me? In our Children's Act, is this section 14, it is the district. The MMDAs have been given direct responsibility for protection of children in their district, and I don't think there's any leader there that knows this. You know, they have an idea, you know, they talk about it sometimes at conference here, seminar there.
What would it take for us to hold them accountable?
Well, you see, some of what we are doing. Okay, it's time for society to know what our laws say, and to be able to talk about these things and hold people accountable. Let them know. It's the district. They're supposed to utilize all these little systems in there. Granted, they may not have all the money that they need, like the Department of Social Welfare, DOFSU. Did you see that by one leader's instrument at DOFSU, this case
justice immediately,
exactly,
in less than 1 week.
So it also talks about capacity, you know, an understanding of your role. You've been trained for it, and you know you can kick into place all these systems and get justice. But when you're done, even the DOFSU officer knows that their case is not done. They must link up with the Department of Social Welfare. They must link up with the counseling or psychological services for the child. They must link up with somebody who is able to maybe connect this mother to LEAP. Okay, and the Department of Social Welfare can do that so that they can find a way of taking care of this boy. But ultimately, even if they are not able to do that immediately, it's the village that raises the child. We must be able to organize around these, but somebody must take the lead. And the lead is the district through its Assembly Social Services Committee and the other institutions that are in and around these people to enable them to do what is necessary.
So we'll talk about where to even start from as far as helping the victim get back on his feet, and the mother as well. But let's talk about money in all of this, you know, economic dependence on the perpetrator. I spoke to the mother. She talked about meeting the man when she was 17 years old. He promised her a sewing machine when they married. After she married him, he never gave her the sewing machine, so she was financially dependent on the man. How does that feed into this power that the perpetrator feels that he can do whatever it is he wants to them? They will never complain because their very existence depend on him.
Yeah, you know, it's a big thing. If you don't have economic dependence, it means that you are dependent on your spouse, and it also adds to their notion that they have more power over you. The only thing is, how do we pick people up from there? I think in the past there used to be a lot more advocacy and work around women's economic empowerment issues, for example. I think that marriage didn't work. It didn't. Right?
Even his other wife too. He used to beat her.
See? Yes. She's gone off.
Left.
And she may be poor, but she's fending for herself one way or the other. It means that the situation is not totally hopeless. It is about being able to provide the kind of information that helps people to be connected to possible resources, some of which are in the system. Okay, so I think that, you know, my heart bleeds when I know that there's work to be done and some people are sleeping on their job. That's what's, you know, because we have enough institutions, systems, structures, laws, policies to be able to do something.
Yeah.
We can't do everything, but to be able to do some things about these things. So when people are sleeping on the job, people don't get the information they need to be able to access whatever little resource that they can get. And women are known to turn over. Where I work, we've given people as little as 50 cedis, 100 cedis, 200 cedis. If I tell you the stories, we won't finish. Or what women have been able to do with money like that. So really, there's no excuse. When
Please
the
use this
government says
opportunity.
pump money into SMEs, you know, be also specific about what women are doing with those, within those sectors. You'll be surprised what they can do with little money.
Give us a sense of what the ACT Foundation does, because I know that you have you have the shelters and so on.
One shelter.
One shelter. Okay.
But
Thank you for the work. You've been working for almost 30 years in this space. So
20 something years.
Almost.
Yeah. So how does your foundation help in these kinds of situations?
Well, okay. So right from the beginning, we started with a lot more talking, advocacy, and so on. But we also realized that people get abused and they need services.
Yeah.
So I then decided I don't just want to talk.
Yeah.
You know, put your money where your mouth is, or your strength where your mouth is, whatever. So we set up services, and the services looks at helping people in an integrated kind of way. So if you came to us, we would do counseling with you, and we are trained to do that. And then we will do professional assessments with you, and then we have a directory of services. Who else can help? So, for example, if somebody walked into our organization and just had a little clot around them, running from an abuser, okay, we'll try to look at their first aid needs immediately, and then link them up to the police if they want to report. If it's a child, we have to. That is a child. But if it's an adult, it's their agency. They have to do that. We link up with the police. We have to follow up. If you don't follow up, your case will fall through the cracks. Unless it's a very trained police. And look, the trained police that I know, they have been trained to a certain point. So I'm confident in that. But for those who are not trained in these issues, this is like a bother to them, you know, most of the time. Yes, so you follow up with those cases, then you assess them. We are just a small organization. We don't cover Ghana, you know. We need more of these services across the regions, across the districts, so that they can...
We have some messages from our viewers, and keep the messages coming through. Kobna K. Benson says, this is partly an unfortunate consequence of stay-at-home measures and school shutdowns due to the coronavirus. We need to try and strike a healthy balance between COVID-19 measures and protecting our children in these times. What's your first stab at this?
My first thing
You've been doing this for a long time, way before COVID-19.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I'm sneezing, but it's good I have my face mask. Yes, that's good. So the first thing is I don't want people to use COVID-19 as an excuse.
How important is it for us to not make excuses for the perpetrator
If
as a
you
society?
make excuses, you won't do anything about it. COVID-19, yes, it means that because you're in the same space with somebody who has already been abusing you, now they have more of an opportunity, more time on their hands, and more excuses to do that. Okay, so yes, we must be looking at COVID-19 specifically around issues of abuse, family interaction, family cohesion, and that was one of the things that I missed in the policy statements right from the beginning. That, you know, lockdown, we are going home and everything, but what are the protective measures that we are putting in place for vulnerable people within our household? I did not hear some of that. Food, yes, we'll give you food and all of that, but what about the other things? So
Doc, let's talk about our call to action now.
Yes.
We're telling children to stay home. How do we begin to put aside funding? You know, some funds to support, you know, organizations like yours who are focused on the psychological, social well-being of the child, because what's the essence of surviving COVID-19 if you're going to live with the trauma of being abused and the society that's supposed to protect you doing absolutely nothing about it?
Well, I'll think that first of all, Ghanaians do not have a big philanthropic culture, but they give. it's a contradiction in terms, but it's for another program. There are corporate organizations, companies, and so on who make money, some who don't make a lot, but some who make money. There are a few organizations such as ours that do this kind of work. We need to scan these organizations, and really, they are all suffering. We need to begin to put some money into these organizations. If you're worried about accountability, check who they are, check their former records, check their working relationships, and try to put some money into these organizations. I must say that currently we are supported by individuals in this country, a few outside of this country, and a few corporate organizations. Few, but individuals. We are not having any multilateral donor funding, that kind of thing. Before Ghana Beyond Aid, we had started. So we are depending on people who believe in our cause to really support us to do work for our own children and our own citizens the best way that we can. And I'm thinking that these organizations, the FIDA is there, and we are few and far between. Yeah. And we need to support them. Department of Social Welfare is itself, I'm sorry, this is no disrespect to them. I love them because they are good people who work there, but they are mostly frustrated by lack of resources. It's almost like an orphan and vulnerable child by itself. Yeah. It's time that some citizens supported some of the district departments of social welfare to be able to go around and do their work of monitoring and educating and providing services for people like this little boy. Okay, they need money to move, to take that taxi, whatever. They need something, and it doesn't appear that the government budgetary allocation to Department of Social Welfare is going to change anytime soon under the Ministry of Gender. It gets so little money. So
if our viewers are touched, you've been working with hundreds of families like Zach's, and they want to support the work you do, how do they contact you? Because I think it's better for us to channel our funds through organizations like yours than to try and reinvent the wheel.
Right. So we have a hotline, which is also a Momo line. Okay. So it serves two purposes: 0243777773. So there are 5 sevens in the middle. That's the fastest way to get us. 0243777773. It's a hotline for reporting abuse. Nice. It is also something by which you can support us, and you would certainly get a big thank you from us.
Thank you so much for the work that you do.
Thank you for the work that you do too.
Well, thank you for watching this segment of the show. I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Angela Dramina Abuaje for the fantastic contribution on this show and the work that she's been doing. My name is David Kwekusechi.
And I am Jifa Epia Ametam. Don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will be right back.
There is no promise we cannot keep. There is no commitment we cannot honor. There is no delivery we cannot guarantee. There is only one Bethel Logistics Company Limited, a licensed international freight forwarding and clearing agent, a trusted global brand with an extensive network for the movement of air freight and ocean freight worldwide. We are the trusted name for road freight into Western and Northern Africa. We are fully accredited by Ghana Customs and Excise. We cater for all your freight forwarding, customs clearing and forwarding, cross trades, inland transportation, internal cargo tracking systems, customer freight costing and consultancy, cold chain logistics management, logistics and warehousing, quality inspection, and much more. In Accra, Tema, and Takrady, we are always available to ensure easy movement of cargo countrywide. Call us on 0204 528 900 or 0244 707 859. Email info@bethellogistics.com. Locate us in Accra at North Ridge, adjacent Accra Girls High School, or in Tema at Community 4, or in Takrady on the second floor of the GCB building. Website bethellogistics.com. Bethlog, experts in shipping logistics.
There is nothing as hard as a diamond. For buildings with superior strength that withstand all weather conditions, Diamond Cement should be your preferred choice. Locate Diamond Cement nationwide with factories in Aflao, Takrady and Bupe. Diamond Cement, as hard as a diamond.
Ghana is a beautiful country. There is so much of it you probably haven't seen, haven't experienced, haven't touched, haven't felt, haven't eaten. When this is all over, let's discover our land again with new eyes. Let's feel each other again. We are one people, brought together by destiny. Let's make that count. Let's show love for each other and our environment. Let's tell our stories, and let's watch and listen to our stories. There will be so much to tell. Ghana is a truly beautiful country. Be Ghana, stay in Ghana, experience Ghana, make Ghana great. And we will invite the world to come and experience Ghana too. But for now, stay home. Brought to you by the National Film Authority. Support the Stay Home and Discover Ghana Later campaign. This channel supports the campaign.
Welcome back. It's time for us to do the news review. I'm going to take you through the frontline stories on the papers, the front pages of the papers. And we'll do a few online stories, and then I'll come back and introduce my guests to you, and then we'll continue the conversation. Now, the show is interactive, so remember to use the hashtag BreakfastDaily on all social media platforms. And also the WhatsApp line that we're using is 0550-585832. If you happen to be outside Ghana, you want to contribute to the show, you can use the country code +233 to prefix that WhatsApp number. All right, so let me take you to the Daily Graphic. On the front page of the Daily Graphic, we have ADB invests 500 million in poultry sector, aims to boost local chicken production, cuts imports. Parliament approves 4 for Supreme Court, says they exhibited competence. Results of MP's COVID-19 test won't be made public. This is coming from a medical director. Okay. I hope at least they break down the figures if we have any positive cases. On the front page of the Ghanaian Times, will ease COVID-19 restrictions if pandemic-associated deaths reduce, says the president. Obinim still in police custody over failure to meet bail bond. President, others observe 25th anniversary of Kumi Preko demo. Parliament approves all 4 Supreme Court nominees. On the front page of the Chronicle, submission of alleged fake names for 50% salary bonus. Roman father threatens whistleblowers after BNI invades St. Teresa's Hospital. Guta accuses aviation minister of usurping powers of MOH, Ministry of Health. 51% of COVID-19 cases in Ashanti are women. This is coming from the GHS. That's an interesting number there because the majority of cases nationwide puts men in a strong majority of the positive cases. We have forgiven Justice Honyenuga. This is from the minority. Asebu Amenfi consoles weeping Catherine the Great in tomorrow's Chronicle. Front page of the New Crusading Guide. Foreign Ministry donates medical supplies to Ministry of Health. Government social interventions impressive. Chiefs of Kumi Shime to Ekufuado. COVID-19 fight. CSIR recommends Opinto Herbal. NDC will not withdraw from 2020 elections, says Asiedu Nketia. And on the front page of the Business Finder, ADB earmarks 500 million Ghana cedis to revive poultry industry. It will create 3,000 jobs. COVID-19, beauticians, barbers, others cry out. Reward workers of basic input. Let's do some few online stories. And on citynewsroom.com, we have MPP's Obri Boahen under investigation for radio show comment. Find ways of living with COVID-19, Akufo-Addo to Ghanaians. Ghana's COVID-19 cases hits 6,269. Recoveries now 1,898. Education Ministry deletes sections of pre-tertiary educational bill. Major Boachi Jan's arrest unconstitutional, says the NDC. And on citybusinessnews.com, COPEC pushes for reduction in LPG from Ghana Gas as OMCs complain. My time with Talo was short, but I made some key inputs, says Kweku Awotwe. Governor Ernest Addison must prioritize consumer protection. Money Wisdom Series. Reduce your money stress and take control of your finances. Yara Ghana donates 200,000 Ghana cedis to COVID-19 National Trust Fund. Producer price inflation for April increased slightly to 7.4%. And on My Joy Online, my confidence in judiciary's impartiality in NDC's issues eroding. This is coming from Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu. And on BBC.com, the world sees highest daily increase in coronavirus cases. This is coming from the WHO. So for more news, kindly visit citynewsroom.com, and for more business news, visit citybusinessnews.com. All right, so we get into discussions this morning. We have a lot of things to talk about. The discussion for this morning will be looking at the compilation of a new voters register. EC releases safety protocols despite the calls for rejection of CI 126. And then there are other things that we'll talk about as well. But let me introduce my guest to you, and then we can do the conversation. Let me start with my guest on my right here. He's Fuseni Issa. He's the MP of Okaigwe North. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
How are you, Honorable?
Very well.
Fantastic. How have you been doing under the current circumstances?
Oh, we've been trying to adjust to what we are beginning to accept is going to be with us for a little while. New ways of doing things. In fact, this morning I left home without my mask, and I had to actually go back for the mask. It's becoming part of my. In fact, I keep some in my car. I keep some in my office just to ensure that at every time I have some around me, and I encourage people to do same and also adhere to the protocols. It's only by adhering to the protocols that we can be able to win against this virus. It is heartbreaking to read from the WHO. And yesterday we had the highest daily increase in numbers of infections. And it's frightening that even if we are able to hold or to control the virus in this country, and it's causing havoc in other places, it means that it's a threat against the human race. So it's a collective fight. I just adhere to all your viewers this morning to adhere to the protocol, so we are able to fight this virus collectively.
Fantastic, fantastic. And let me introduce my other guest to you. He's Nate George, MP of Ningo Pram Pram. Good morning, son.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
By God's grace, we're doing well and keeping alive. Like my brother and colleague has said, things have just not been the same, and they will never be the same again. Let me use this opportunity to do my morning rant and make a public request again to the Ghana Police Service. Kwame Nkrumah Circle is a major business hub. We've got that interchange there, beautifully built by President Mahama to ease traffic. The indiscipline of a few commercial drivers when you're coming from the Achimota side, discipline of people just stopping and taking the whole three lanes to drop passengers and pick passengers creates a whole backlog of traffic. And you have MTTD officers standing there.
Right there. Every day.
We just need to be disciplined.
You're right.
It doesn't make sense that there's an interchange that you will cross in less than 30 seconds or in a minute, but to get to the interchange you spend 8 minutes. What's the sense in it? The police should be up and doing, please.
All right.
And I've been ranting on this for God knows how long, about 4 or 5 years now.
I think we just need to keep hammering at it, and eventually.
I don't see that. Then the police should leave there, because you see the police there, yet the mess is there.
All right. So there's something on the front page of the Daily Graphic here. It says the results of MP's COVID-19 test will not be made public. When I mentioned it earlier, Honorable here was giggling through the whole time I was, reading the thing there. What are MPs hiding?
Well, I think that, and let me say good morning to our viewers across the country. I think that it's most unfair to want to put MPs on the spot that way. We're told that the country has done over 160,000, around
actually 180,000 plus.
180,000 plus. Has the country been putting out the details of those records in terms of who is positive and who is negative? If you test 275 MPs, and God willing, all are negative. You just put out the fact that all two are negative. If there are 1 or 2 who come out as positive, you just state that 2 are negative. To come out and state that from the test, this particular MP or that particular MP is positive, I think will be a breach of medical procedure. It is the sole prerogative of that MP
individual
to then choose to want to make his status public. But to say that by hook or crook, without the consent or prior approval of any individual. Yes, and I know people are going to come up and say, but your public officers paid by the taxpayer. Yes, but the person still has certain privileges and rights as a citizen of the republic, because we are citizens first.
True.
You have. Then we can as well say every MP who goes to his lawyer, because he's a public officer, the lawyer must disclose the details and dealings with the lawyer. Or you go and see your pastor or imam, I mean, there are certain privileges that every human being, irrespective of your position, demands. I mean, if taxpayers' money is then going to be used for a specialized treatment, I believe that if a public servant, for example, if an MP, for example, is to undergo surgery at expense of the taxpayer, there must be some reporting on it. But when it comes to issues of COVID, for example, I don't think that it is.
Okay.
I think that
Fair
is a
enough.
personal issue, and we should respect the privacy of every citizen.
All right.
My take on that would be the level of disclosure. I mean, if at the end of the exercise it comes to X number of MPs, but the details are held on. I mean, it wasn't just MPs, the parliamentary service, staff of parliament were also undergoing the test as of yesterday. And like I agree with my brother here that MPs also deserve some level of privacy. In fact, not too long ago, the speaker was even forced to declare his coronavirus COVID-19 status. I mean, he declared it in Parliament and he had undertaken the test and he was actually negative. And so, is it sometimes also the cynicism that goes with some of those things actually fire and put fuel in some of these cases? Because I didn't think this was a case for a paper like that to put on.
The medical director is the one who made mention of that. It won't be made public.
I mean, it shouldn't. I think that the level of disclosure will also be.
All right. Okay. So let's get into our stories for today. I want to talk about the EC, and the EC has released safety protocols for voter registration exercise. The story here on citynewsroom.com. Let me just go into the story straight away. The Electoral Commission has given an indication of the safety protocols it hopes to abide by if the registration exercise for the compilation of a new electoral roll. The process to compile a new roll has currently been suspended because of COVID-19 pandemic. Among other things, it will be mandatory to wear face masks at the registration centers. People's temperatures will be taken before one is allowed into the registration center. There will be running water available for washing of hands, according to an artwork posted on the Commission's social media pages. Queues are to have a 1 meter gap between persons lining up to register. The scanners will be sanitized, and the persons who complete the registration will also be provided with hand sanitizer before they leave the center. Let me jump from there and quickly go to another story here. Voters register again, reject EC's plans to use Ghana card passport for identification. The Member of Parliament for Boku Central, Mahama Ayariga, is pushing for the rejection of the Electoral Commission's move to make the Ghana card and passports only forms of identification before one could be registered onto the yet to be compiled new voters register. Mahama Ayariga is bent on ensuring that Parliament rejects the EC's request for such amendments to be made to the law governing elections in Ghana. The EC has presented the Public Election Amendment Regulation 2020 CI 126 to Parliament to amend CI 91 in order to change the identification requirements passed in 2016. All right. Let me start with you, Sam George. What's the big deal here? I mean, why are we not allowing the EC to just go ahead and do what it is that they are mandated by law to do? What's the whole, huff and fuss about?
Well, the big deal is that in times where you're wearing a face mask or a muzzle, as some will want to call it, and we are all wearing the same thing, in times where we've had to keep so much distance between ourselves, in times where to walk into your building I had to wash my hands, and all of that, it just doesn't make common sense for anyone to suggest the things that they're suggesting. I mean, have you seen the EC's protocols?
Yeah.
And
it seems pretty comprehensive.
Well, it's not realistic.
Why not?
Have you been
wearing face masks, temperature
I've
checks,
seen
hand washing, social distancing, scanner wipes, and sanitizer.
Are you a
hands.
registered voter at the moment?
Yes.
When did you register? 2012. During the last biometric registration?
Yes,
Or
the last time, yes, was 2012.
2012. Fantastic. Do you remember how many people were in the queue when you went there?
Upwards of 200.
Fantastic. And in that registration center, you had not given yourself 1 meter gaps. And I'm sure you'd remember, if you remember, you see how long it took you to get registered. Now, are you aware that in the Electoral Commission's program that they are rolling out, we're not going to be registering at our polling stations. We're going to be registering in clusters. So they're clustering about 4 or 5 polling stations, or in some cases 10 polling stations. Each polling station has a minimum or has a range of between 700 to 900 people, or in some cases maybe 500. But at least 500 people on the average, 600, 500. And you're putting 10 of these polling stations in a cluster. So you're looking at about 6,000 people. Now, this cluster is also not going to be open for registration for the whole duration. In each cluster, they're going to be registering for what, 8 days or 5 days, they said. So you're bringing more people into the same space, or into a smaller space than they would normally have been if they're in all of,
fair enough,
in everyone in their polling station, and you are doing it in a shorter period than you normally will do, because normally you will do the registration for 40 days across all the polling stations. But now when they move from a cluster, if you don't register, you have to chase them to another cluster further away, which means you're going to add to the numbers in that cluster. That's the absurdity and insanity that the Electoral Commission wants to push down our throats in times like this. In times like this, where again, looking at even the procedure that they want to use, then you then have instances where there's going to be a lot of people having to, after registering, not leave the center. We're asking people not to congregate for too long. After I have registered, after I have been in a queue for 6 hours or 5 hours and I get registered, I don't leave. You know why?
Why not?
Because I then have to stay and guarantee or vouch for a brother or a sister who doesn't have a passport or a Ghana card, but has a birth certificate, has an old voter's ID card, but the AC says no, he's not. So I then have to be there to wait and vouch for him. So even after I have finished, I am still there. My brother, when you listen to what the reality is on the ground, given where we sit today with Corona, you ask yourself what the people who are in charge at the Electoral Commission, what they are eating and drinking, and whether they are listening to the news. Now, and because of want of time, I'm going to move straight to Ayariga's issue. I think that, look, Ayariga's issue is straightforward. The kangaroo laying of the CI before Parliament by the majority leader.
Why do you refer to it as kangaroo?
Or because it didn't go through the right process. CIs normally go to the the Constitutional and Legal Committee and the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and they sit down and work on it. These CIs did not go there. The majority leader just came and laid them in Parliament. That is how come there were errors even in occasion them laying this particular thing 3 times. Because it is when it comes to the floor that they realize the error. Kangaroo lane. This kangaroo lane that went on is an affront. The tenants in there, inherent in the CI, is an affront to the 1992 Constitution. And if Parliament is not, but Parliament's hands are tied by standing orders.
What's your issue with the CI?
I'll come there. Our hands are tied by the standing orders. Once the CI is laid, you can't make any changes to it, except what Mahama is trying to do, a notice of motion to say that let's jettison the whole project, but you cannot make amendments to it. If Parliament does not stop this illegality, I want to believe that the courts of the land will stop the illegality. Because see, the whole concept, the whole concept of compiling a new register is for Ghanaians to be able to vote. The right to vote in this country is a constitutional right. It's a constitutional fundamental right enshrined in Article 42. Let me read. Every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered. Entitled is an entitlement bestowed by the Constitution to be registered as a voter for the. So, what are the conditions to get that entitlement? You must be a citizen of Ghana. You must be 18 years of age or above and of a sound mind. So, if I'm 18 years of age or above and of a sound mind, I have the right to vote once I'm a citizen of Ghana. Who is a citizen of Ghana? The CI says a citizen of Ghana is somebody who has a passport or somebody who has a Ghana card. But the Constitution again, in Article 6, tells me who a citizen of Ghana is. 6.1 says, every person who on the coming into force of this Constitution is a citizen of Ghana by the law shall continue to be a citizen. So if you were Ghanaian by the time this Constitution came to be in 1992, you are Ghanaian. 2, and this is most important, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, a person born in or outside Ghana after the coming into force of this Constitution shall become a citizen of Ghana at the date of his birth if either of his parents or grandparents is or was a citizen of Ghana. So if my grandparents were Ghanaians or if my parents are Ghanaians, I am a citizen of Ghana. And 42 gives me a right, so long as I'm 18 and above and of sound mind, to be registered. Then you go and pass, you bring a CI that says that if I don't have a Ghana card or if I don't have a passport, then I cannot be registered. In my constituency, in Ngo Pram Pram, less than 40% of the people who registered, have received their cards over 6 months after the registration. So are you saying they are not Ghanaians? And even the numbers that were registered constitutes just about 32% of the total population of my constituency. So all of those people are Ghanaians whose rights are being curtailed. And don't forget, in the Abu Ramadan case, and I end here, I see you're looking at your time. I could go on. In the Abu Ramadan case, then Chief Justice, Her Lordship, Georgina Todora Wood, made a statement that was profound. If you take that reading, it is there. She spoke about the importance of the right to register, because she said the right to vote is a fundamental right bestowed on every Ghanaian citizen 18 years and above and of sound mind. However, it is a sine qua non that for you to enjoy that right, you also have the right to be registered.
Okay.
And so anybody who seeks to curtail the right of registration of a citizen is invariably curtailing the right to vote, which is a constitutional requirement. Anybody who fights against the constitution of this country is an act of treason.
All right. So my next guest will have the opportunity to respond to Sam George there after this short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
ExpressPay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced process. Mark some accounts as favorites so they are super easy to access. Even cooler, view payment due dates and check remaining balances for your favorite accounts. Want to repeat a payment? Do that right from the History tab. Have all your money in one place with a sleek look and feel. Bank Direct has had an awesome makeover. You can now send money instantly to 22 banks and counting. ExpressPay, payments simplified.
Welcome back from that break. My next guest is Fuseni Issa. He is the MP of Okaikwe North. He's going to respond to Sam George's interesting comments on the first topic. But before we do that, let me just quickly read this message from you, our viewers. Good morning, City TV. What is George saying? Has he forgotten that he said the president should live by example? So if the president test is made public, why can't the MPs do the same? Because I remember he said he's not going to wear a nose mask because the president is not wearing one.
That again is falsehood. I've been on this show how many times? Every time I'm here, I'm in a nose mask. I've been in my constituency, I've been wearing a nose mask. People should stop creating things in their own fertile imaginations.
You've heard him. All right. So, yes, Honorable.
David.
EC wants to do this thing by hook or by crook.
And they want to do it by crook, not by hook.
NDC is saying...
Charlie, for 10 minutes I was very quiet.
They won't allow.
I've not started. David, let me say a good morning to my constituents. I see that quite a couple of them are watching, and I'm getting... but common sense, as my brother referred to, requires that life goes on, even in the midst of this pandemic. Common sense requires that we as members of parliament will still play our role as enshrined in our constitution. Common sense requires that the executive, the judiciary, all arms of government will be operating because we can't come to a halt. And so common sense requires that state institutions will also go on doing their work. And for that, as a Ghanaian and as a citizen of this country and as a member of parliament, I will support any state institution which will abide by the protocols put out by the president and the team managing the pandemic in this country. Any institution that goes by those tenets, I will support them in doing their work. We currently are in a situation, but that also does not mean that everything comes to a halt. That's my belief. If you look at countries around the world, they are opening up. Every state in the U.S., that's yesterday, was opening up one way or the other. Countries in Europe which had experienced the extreme form of this pandemic, Italy, Spain, they are all opening up one way or the other. In fact, the original place that is, a place that we all think this virus originated from, Wuhan, is open for business.
But you know,
and they are going by stated protocols, and so it is not a case that because of this virus, everything comes to a standstill, and that we will just close shop and go sleep. No, we are still alive. This morning, I left my home to come to the studio to keep this country going, to keep this business. You get up and you come to work, and then we also even go further to plan for events post this pandemic, because we believe that we will still be alive post this pandemic. So we will have to be going on. Unlike my colleague here, who somewhere last month, I think in May, wrote a letter to the speaker giving case instances why he will stay away from proceedings in Parliament. Some of us didn't. We went through the situation. We were in Parliament every time we were needed. We did the restrictions act. We did the COVID relief laws and all of that to make sure that our country keeps going and going. And so if we in Parliament are working, why should the EC be stopped from performing its functions? We refer to the Constitution and whatever rights are enshrined upon us. The EC also is a constitutional body. Article 45 of the Constitution gives EC the mandate to compile a register. You have a right to vote, but that right is not in a vacuum. You can't just get up and say, because I am a Ghanaian or I'm a citizen of this country at the elections, there are processes that we have to go through to even identify who qualifies to vote and who doesn't qualify to vote. And so the EC is also a constitutional body which has rights under 45A, Article 45A, to compile a register. All the EC is doing is saying that this is how I am going about to compile the register, even in these challenging times. It's an election year. I am sure my colleague here and his ilk will still insist that we have to have elections come December 7th. How are we going to have elections come December 7th when we are asking the same institution which is supposed to organize these elections to closure? How is that possible? the EC, so far as it's actually attending to the protocols that has been laid down, I, as a Ghanaian, will support every job that they do in these trying times. Beyond that, we have to be very careful about some of the things that we are saying, especially about the EC. Article 46 of our Constitution also says the EC does not come under the direction and control of anybody. Article 46 of the Constitution, the EC is not under the direction and control of anybody or any institution, not under the control institution or direction of the NDC, Sam George, or myself. The EC is an independent body, and we expect that the EC will do as enshrined under the Constitution.
But
in this trying times, let me follow.
Are they not subject to the Constitution?
They are subject to the Constitution.
Okay.
They are not doing anything contrary to the provisions of the Constitution.
And under the Constitution, we also have the Imposition of Restrictions Bill.
Yeah.
That has been
That's an
enacted.
act.
Is it,
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an act.
It's an act.
Yeah. Act of Parliament.
So those restrictions there have a place.
But those restrictions are not. They are governed by the EI that intermittently the president releases. Whenever the president deems it fit, he comes to tell us under this executive instrument, this is exactly what I'm doing. I'm closing the borders. I'm asking that there are no public gatherings. I'm asking that if you are able to go and do your program or project and does not infringe upon the protocols or the legal regime, which is the Restrictions Act that is in place, there is nothing wrong with it. I'm sure that is why we are seated here.
And is that?
I am sure that is why we are seated here.
So are you saying that EC is not flouting any of the restrictions that we have so
It's
far?
come out with the provisions that they want to follow. When they are doing it today, who knows where the EI is going to go tomorrow? If by tomorrow or the end of month, when the current EI runs out, there's a new EI. Why are we looking into the future? Why are we looking at the crystal ball and making projections? That is not in our place to do.
Okay.
The EC has come out with protocols, and if we follow those protocols, that is not going to be an issue. I am not a spokesperson for the EC, but as a Ghanaian, as a member of Parliament, I will support any justified move by the EC to ensure that this year being an election year, come December 7th, Ghanaians are going to have a free, fair, and credible elections. That I support. Talking about clusters and us putting polling stations together, I think that's been the norm for the last couple of registrations that we have had.
That's not true.
Yeah. We have had equipment move from one end to another. There has not been I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. There has not been a case where every polling station has its own registration equipment.
I can't speak for every polling station, but my polling station is in Kokomlemle, and when I go there, it was just us alone.
Trust me, it might be just you alone. In most polling stations, there is either Kokomlemle Methodist A, Kokomlemle Methodist B, and there are a number of polling stations in that places. During registration, you mean, and not exhibition or some during registration. Yes. The last registration that we had. Yes. It was done in clusters. Electoral areas had kids that were moving around. Under this EC. Okay, in 2012, the registration that we had clusters and the equipment was moving around. If that's a provision that the EC and the EC is taking precautions to ensure that we do this without us having an upsurge in infections, I have absolutely nothing. I see absolutely nothing wrong. Talking about the CI 126. Our colleagues on the other side want us to believe that the CI limits your identity or your proof of identity to only the NIA card or a passport. That is not true.
Really?
That is not true. There is also a provision where you can get identified through you getting a voter registration identity guarantee form. And that has been the practice. It is not the first time we're putting this in the CI.
No, hold on. What do you say? You're saying that you can have a voter's ID
You can
card.
have a form and have two people guarantee.
Yeah.
Who are already voters, who have already registered. It is a third option. It
No,
is
wait,
not
hold
limit-
on. No.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like I'm a bit lost here.
Yeah.
You're saying that it's not only the Ghana card and the passport.
Yes.
But if you have a voter's ID card,
No,
that
what
is
I'm saying.
guaranteed.
There will be a form
for-
at the station,
Uh-huh.
at the polling station, where if you don't have an NIA card and you don't have a passport, somebody who has those documents, who has already registered, can guarantee for you. Two people.
Okay.
And by that, you also qualify to get your name.
How is that the same as anything we've ever done?
In the past, it's always been there. It's always been there in the past. In 2012 registration, we had a guarantee form where people who already had their names on the electoral roll could guarantee your identity and get you registered. It's always been there.
Okay.
So it is not only a case of the 2 million people who have passports or those who have registered on the NIA on the NIA. We have also this provision, but they limit this and they keep using only a passport and which is misleading, which is false. But as we know them, they want to explore everything to their partisan or parochial partisan interest, and so they will keep just changing. This is what the CI says. The CI wants to say, and I challenge my colleague here to say otherwise.
Okay.
It is contained in the CI 126.
Okay.
So why do we go around saying that it's only NIA cards and passports that could get their names on the electoral?
A quick rebuttal from you, but before you do that, quickly, let me. Good morning, David. I don't think it's necessary to have this new voters registration exercise, while at the same time they are telling us there's a disease in town. Where are the safety measures which are going to be put in place if really this virus is real?
To the safety measures.
It's about time we give priority to what's important to the ordinary Ghanaian than thinking about politicians' interests. This is John Tete from Airport City. I think that from what Honorable was saying and what we can see, the EC has put quite a considerable number of measures in place. We are yet to see how effective these things will be rolled out, but it's still early days yet, and Sam George is going to make a quick rebuttal.
David,
yes.
First and foremost, let me set the record straight. My brother said that I wrote a letter that said I won't come to Parliament, and that they sat in Parliament and did imposition of restrictions bill. They sat in Parliament and did COVID fund. You should go and take the records of Parliament and take attendance in Parliament. They should read. He and the speaker who didn't read.
Did you write a letter to the speaker?
If you have read my letter,
my letter you stated that because the sanitizers were not automated, it didn't constitute a safety measure enough for you.
Okay, let him respond.
When you do this, you embarrass your
Let me respond. We need to move on to the next
topic.
topic.
Say they have an MP who doesn't read. My letter was specific.
I hear you.
My letter said I would work day and night, Monday to Sunday, on any issue regarding coronavirus. And so on the day where the Imposition of Restrictions Act or bill was taken and passed in Parliament, I'm challenging you. Go and take the attendance record in Parliament. I was in Parliament.
Okay.
The day the finance minister came for us to give him allocation to use the Ghana Stabilization Fund, I was there in Parliament. Every day there was an activity related to coronavirus, I was in Parliament. What I failed to do like him, he and those who were so minded, is that during this coronavirus, they went and sat down, he's on the finance committee, and approved a loan for MPs to go and buy new chairs during coronavirus. That is what they were doing. And that is what I refuse to be part of. I refuse to be part of such irresponsibility that when we were dealing with coronavirus, he and his colleagues went and passed the loan agreement for MPs to go and buy new chairs. What's wrong with the chairs we are sitting on? When we had not decided how we were going to feed Ghanaians, how we're going to give them water. That is what I stood for, and I will stand by it any day, any time. I was not going to be part of passing needless loans at a time where our focus needed to have been on coronavirus. He's on the finance committee. He was part of that irresponsibility. Now let me come to
irresponsibility for us looking beyond the pandemic. Is that what you're saying?
Of thinking that during the height of coronavirus,
even look beyond
buying chairs for MPs
that are
buying chairs for MPs is an important thing. What is wrong with the chairs we are sitting on? What is wrong with the chairs we are sitting on? When Ghanaians don't have a place to sleep, you want to buy new chairs for yourself.
Let's be careful how we bastardize the institution that we both belong to.
We need to be accountable to the people who voted us.
Let's be careful and protect our institutions.
I will not protect irresponsibility. Parliament must act in the interest of the people who voted us there.
George, you need to make progress.
Because I won't be an MP forever.
In your instance, you're telling us that because of this pandemic.
Interjected. I won't be an MP forever. When I leave Parliament, the person who comes to sit in my seat, I will be his constituent, and I will expect him to do the right thing. So I will do the right thing. When we are done with Corona and you think we need new chairs, we can come and look at it, but not in the height of Corona. And that is what I refused, and that is what I spoke against. And you can call me names for that, but I will do it 1,000 times. Now, you claim that we've had EC registrations. The last EC registration we had is what we had in clusters, under the same Jean Mensah. The limited registration for the DLE. That is what we had in clusters. Previously, in 2012, every polling station had its own device.
It is not true.
You understand? And again, look, let's even assume.
It is not true.
To expose the paucity of his argument, let's even assume that yes, in 2012 we had clusters. In 2012, did we have Corona? Oh, now here. Did we have Corona?
All right,
Chief, I'm coming. We need to.
In 2012,
so in 2012, if you keep interjecting me, you need to give me more time.
This is extra time. You're pretty
so you see, at the end of the day, when he says in 2012 we had clusters, did we have Corona?
All right, okay.
You see, when I told you that some of the things is common sense, I knew what I was talking about. And then the last point I'm going to make, very last point I'm going to make, is that you see, when you challenged him, and in my earlier submission, I made the point that when somebody registers, the person won't leave the center. They have to wait and do guaranteeing. Yeah. How is that me lying? Is that not what you are pointing out? But the previous CIs, the CI 96 you are seeking to change, or 91 that you are seeking to change in 126, what did it say there? It said that if I was a Ghanaian and I could prove my citizenship by birth certificate, by voters, a previous voter's ID card, by a driver's license, by a passport, I could determine. Now, look at what is happening. By the estimation of the Ghana Statistical Service and the NIA, you have 17 million over, about 17.3 million Ghanaians who are 18 years and over. So you expect that the Electoral Commission should register about 17 million people. Now, if you look at the number of people who have been issued NIA cards and who have passports, because to get an NIA card, you need a passport. So the passport is a subset of the NIA. You can confidently say about 6 million people have been taken care of.
Yeah.
So it means 13 million, if you take 6 million out of 17 million, it means another 9 million people will have to be guaranteed for. In previous instances where people guarantee for, less than 5% of those registered need people to guarantee for them. In this case, even if all the 6.2 million people who have voters the Ghana card and a passport come and guarantee, they are going to constitute less than 40% or just about 40%. It means 60%. What should be that third requirement of a guarantee is supposed to be the exception, not the norm. Why is it that under the MPP we want to turn everything upside down? What is the exception should become the norm?
See, my point is that
you have no point.
My point is that getting access to be on the electoral roll as enshrined in our constitution is not limited to you having a passport or an NIA card.
But somebody else can guarantee for you.
A Ghanaian who already has those documents and has the name on the electoral roll can guarantee for you to also qualify. So they should move away.
Okay.
When he read Article 45, when he read Article 45A, what did you read 45A says? 45A does not say they must compile a register. It says they must compile a register and revise it. So what? Do revision now.
Why revision and not compilation of anyone?
Because you've compiled one.
Because you say so. Because you say so. Because the NDC says so.
Because you've compiled one. Because it makes common sense that you have to compile a register. God forbid today, if an MP drops dead and we are supposed to have a by-election, what register is going to be used?
All right, so the former MPs...
This is what is in place.
So this register will be good for a by-election today.
This is what we have in place.
Vow to pursue arrears even to international court. CityNewsroom.com. The gentlemen, please, some decorum. A former member of Parliament for Sege, Alfred Abayate, says he will go, I know, right? And other things. He says he will go to any length, including the International Court of Human Rights, to ensure that arrears and gratuities due him and his colleagues, former MPs, are paid. I will follow this issue because I have been cheated. I was shortchanged. So even if it is to go to the International Court, some of us will organize and go. so that Ghana will pay, he said in a City News interview. Mr. Abayete was reacting to a decision by the Auditor General not to approve the payment of some 29 million Ghana cedis to the Forum of Former MPs who made their request through the Chief of Staff. Now, Sam George.
Hey, you're coming back to me again.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You see, people may think that Honorable Abayete and his colleagues have a certain misplaced claim.
Yeah.
But let's be minded. Myself and Hussein are classmates of the 7th Parliament of the 4th Republic.
Okay.
We've been in Parliament for 3 years, and this is the 5th month. I don't know my salary, neither does he.
Really?
Yes. None of us in this Parliament knows our salary.
What's
We are being paid.
going on?
We
What's
are
the
being
meaning?
paid the salary of the 6th Parliament, and that is what happens with every Parliament. Until the Presidential Emolument Commission is set up, most times in the 4th year, and comes out with its recommendations, you are paid basically on account the previous Parliament salary. Now, considering inflation and regular civil service and public service salary increases, by the time your emoluments are finally determined, most times 2 to 3 months to the expiration of your 4-year term, it then means that you have been paid a salary that is less than what you should have been earning. So then it arises the case of a backlog. Many times people say MPs finish every 4 years and take ex gratia. It really is not an ex gratia. It is simply the difference of your salary that has not been given. So today...
But is there an ex gratia for MPs?
I mean, for every Article 71 holder,
Yes.
there is an ex gratia that is calculated as a percentage of your salary. However, when people see the quantum that is paid, they think that it is huge. What people don't realize is it is the ex gratia component, which
Plus
is really
the
something
arrears.
little. The chunk of that money is the arrears that have been piled up over the 4 years. You understand me? So when you hear that an MP got 500,000 as ex gratia, most of that 500,000, 400,000 of it is actually
Let
his
me-
unpaid salary. So
Yeah.
today, it may not affect us, but if we leave this Parliament, we will become members of this forum
The
of
forum.
former, and we would also be got by this
by
bar.
default
Because as
or-
far as
by
I'm
default
aware,
or by choice?
even as we speak now, the president has not set up.
It's been set up.
It's been set up.
It was
Okay.
set up last year.
Last year.
so
we're still waiting for it.
So some people like
Podo,
me,
Honorable Podo and Eliza.
some people like me
Yeah.
are suggesting that why don't you donate this money to the COVID-19 National Trust Fund?
Let me start off by what the Auditor General had said. I think that his excuses are not things that I will agree with. Mainly being that those who are beneficiaries of all of this are either members of the executive or out of Parliament, and also the reason of us being in crisis, so they couldn't be paid. That's I totally disagree with the Auditor General. At the time this amounts became due to be paid to these people, they were not in positions that they are today, and so it couldn't be risen enough. And COVID, it's a very these are trying times, but it's affecting them. I mean, when you meet some former members of Parliament, you really feel sad and how things have gone down south for them since they left Parliament. And it's something that for some of us now in Parliament, you got a case. I mean, Parliament is an institution where you start planning your exit as soon as you go in there. If you don't plan well, by the time you leave Parliament, because there are a lot of things that you used to do before you came to Parliament. After Parliament, you're unable to do. And so those excuses of COVID-19 and members of the executive being beneficiaries of, I don't think they are tenable. But on the bigger picture, I think that it's also, I mean, all that my colleague has said is true. The setting up of the Emoluments Committee and all of that, they are in place, but we are still enjoying what the Sixth Parliament did enjoy. And so any difference that has to pay to us, I mean, there are monies that are due me. I have a family that I have to cater for. I have a whole constituency that I have to cater for. And so when some of these things happen, I think that they are not being treated fair. I'll just urge the Auditor General to move away from this and ensure that the right things are done.
But when you say that, are you the Father Christmas of your constituency?
I am not the Father Christmas of my constituents, but at this time I have elected to lead them. And the role of a member of parliament is evolving. It's evolving, and sometimes it's not as if it's something that you need to do. But look, for somebody to walk to you for some assistance, it means that the person had some expectation. And if you're privileged enough to help out, I mean, we are all in a
Are
world
we not setting
where
ourselves up for
each
disaster,
other's
though?
keeper.
When we lead the people to believe that they can come to us at any point in time because we are MPs.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
But there are things that you, as a member of parliament, you need to. In this COVID instance, during the lockdown, there were people who were actually in hardship, and so if I can afford to support them as a member of parliament, there's nothing wrong with it. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that, doing that. But when it gets to certain levels, then it becomes worrying.
All right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, all right. So, viewers, sorry, you've sent us quite a few messages here. Let me just read a few of them out and then see if we can do a 30-second stab at it.
Sorry, you mentioned why you think that this money should be donated to
the COVID-19 Trust Fund.
COVID-19 Trust Fund. Yeah. That's your thought, and I think you're entitled to it. But I think that those who are entitled for those payments will have to decide what they want to do with money that is due them.
Fair enough. Francis Eli from Ho says, I think the EC should reconsider their position on this cluster registration thing. Must those who turn 18 even have to wait for a certain narrow window to be open before they register in the first place? Why can't we walk into registration offices all year round? Well, it's a good question. Good morning, Mr. Host. It's not about assumptions as Sam George wants us to believe, but the facts of the matter is that, number one, I worked with the EC until 2000, and the 2012 maiden biometric registration, I worked as a registration officer, special duties. It was a case that we used about 40 days to register Ghanaians into the voter register, and polling stations were in clusters. Number two, he says the guarantors form has always been there, and prospective registrars can use it if they don't have their own legal documents. Yeah. Okay, so this is coming from Kamel Abdulmumin from Boku.
Same simple question I asked Fuseni. I asked Kamel.
Now what?
Did we have coronavirus in 2012?
Yes, but the fact that we have coronavirus today does not stop us.
President Kufuor was very prophetic.
That we do.
President Kufuor was very prophetic. When the NI went to register him in his house, he made very telling comments where he said that the old voters' ID card must be a requirement for registration. President Kufuor.
All right. Thank you very much to you.
Are you sure you actually said that?
Thank you very much to you,
Sam.
Fuseni Issa, who's the MP of Okaikwe North, and also to Samuel Nati George, who's the MP for Ningo Pram Pram. Thank you very much, viewers, for watching and also for sending in your messages. We will cross over at a point shortly to the Ministry of Information as they give us some clarity on the new case count and other things extra. All right, so stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's here, the Express Pay app. More social, more power, more services. Experience a cooler way of payments with exciting new features. Want to go social? Upload a cool image to add a personal feel to your account. Payments are even more seamless with an enhanced